Yo, yamamo akwa basronko so eba POG Media so message sa fei and as waba oba subscribe like jumandi and share them off for and so answer and can be kindly click on the notification bell no so send be the any news be better platform no so a onso ubehunu die airco and die bayanko yensem no ma ye ko eye Torkono ayensensem na we ana eye Ivanchi edin sam dodo na aba betudwa a chese oche mu ahwe eye Torkono onhweni onjan tokwana okuno na onye de onyinani senebe ya eja ni remove no ebe peaceful and successful o kan sem bebre yankoni nkonkuti.
Prior to the elections, we all saw how dirty our judiciary became in this country. But yes, subject of public mortification on various social media platforms. Unanimous this, unanimous that. You can just sit and predict the outcome of the judiciary and then the ruling. As for judiciary, the ruling Bible and saying ordinary person can sit and say, I the ruling with the answer in him. Or catch them say, the birth certificate and you're enough to vindicate my nationality. Now, traveling document, which is a passport. You see, it's a common sense and you're common to everybody. So these are some of the things that man for your worried. And again, the judicial tampering and the packing of the court and as a form. So Ghanaians became so much concerned. Said no, your judiciary, we needed to do something about it. I don't know, give you right to some of these things. And this is the fact that some people send a petition. Yes, it is true. And some now more can't our petition. No. I think that the Chief Justice must spend all her time responding to the in some rather than fighting the procedures, these trivialities around. Oh yes, Anna, you are painting a picture so you are guilty because you have no response to the issues that have been peddled against you. I'm speaking to the issue, explaining why I'm a young Tomona. I didn't tell about TV, so now I'm fan court. No one you say, you are preaching to the people, so you are guilty because you have no defense. But if I know, say, I didn't do that particular thing, I catch them with this car, I will explain to you why I mean this car. I'll go to the committee and explain myself. And Charlotte Say and co, other people who were subjected to similar processes went through the same thing. This is not the first time a president has suspended you. The last time I catch Justice Derry when Anas accused them. And a premier first year was established. They were suspended by President Akuffo pending investigation. We investigation, Akuffo signed a warrant and dismissed all of them. And you're saying, a former Shraj boss went through the same process. So this is not a novelty unless the woman is telling us this whole thing is a novelty. And again, I was shocked when the Chief Justice made a request. He said, this whole thing, Yamfamra TV. So now maybe someone say, mommy, or a lawyer, because this person is supposed to be a lawyer, and she knows, that particular provision in our constitution, nobody can waive it, not even the court, not even the Supreme Court. And as I walk about the JSC ruling, I read that particular ruling throughout. He made it clear, sir. Sir, Adiana constitutional framework say I'm heading in camera no. It is not because I a privilege for whoever or seeking the court. For the people of this country, but there are certain things that won't mean for metanabonting agency. So they wanted to protect the sanctity of the court. And untina, you're making it. You have enshrined in the Constitution. The Supreme Court ain't any power to waive. We need to do a referendum, Ghana for on top, and another constitutional amendment. And such ruling, will be shown on camera. So for a whole Chief Justice to make a request to a court to say, TVs, and then you begin to wonder where that particular mind is coming from. You understand? So I think that this whole process here, also involving the Chief Justice, whole lot of weaknesses has come to bear. And for me, I am very disappointed. Going forward, now, I think that the people we select to the apex court of the land, we must be very careful and see Nipana or Yedo Mokonu really they deserve. In recent times, and I think that the politics is becoming too much. I know a lot of people on the offense that the Supreme Court on the offense that Judicial Numa, because they've been given some partisan colorization. And acquire politics. So yes, if you don't talk to any line, so all the promotions and appointment that is coming, depending on how you stand across the political, that is what they do. So at the end of the day, the very people with the enough competence and that intellectual weight to be able to give us all the detail that we need so far as interpretation of our laws are concerned. These people, bypass more, then we promote some of these push over intellectuals to these higher positions. And at the end of the day, it will come at a cost for us. Because we are Ghana, now what's national, we emotions free. Now we politics free. Now we see the argument of the Chief Justice on TV. You will be shocked. Say, it's the way I Chief Justice and answer about so because it's so shocking and very sometimes I wonder because basic element like reasoning, common sense, and then as if you see that it's missing. Maybe emotions can take a better part of people. And like trust, we say when you rise to a certain position, don't allow emotions to cloud your thinking, because the very moment emotions take over your head, wisdom goes on vacation. And when you're careful, it will never come back. You thrive on emotion. You even embarrass yourself without even realizing. So I think that Ghana, I like the response at various contexts and they are this whole thing. And on more kanya, who say they goofed bad. The AG issued a statement explaining this whole thing. The AG was a bit charitable with his choice of words. I've seen a lot of big lawyers who are very angry about this, because some of these things, bring it to mind the colonial days.
Yeah. There is this conversation that has come up in town, and over the weekend, we call Joy Pram, we had a discussion at the tail end of the discussion in there about the call to purchase a new presidential jet. Because of said Musia program, no time, and then as a 4-year problem, and sometimes walk as a cry will be one no I don't see and now more question, so you are unable to, it's a problem. But I think here we can have time to delve deeper into the issues now say and then as a forum. So the presidential jets now started when there is this guy MP called Asefua, when he lied, let me say he lied to the general public by posting on social media, said President Mahama in private jet edit 2 kwine akaway post to some weird, that guy, isn't just an ordinary person. I don't know, yes, sir. This is a nipa ya twaba mano or your MP. So if nothing at all, Krana, you need to be very truthful, factual, and be able to, build that kind of public trust. Nipa na or your MP, I dear free the hobby, I am very reliable. But unfortunately, as petty as it has always been, as unintelligent as many have always been, ended up saying he was just cooking figures, putting falsehood and false narrative out there just to court public opprobrium against the president, because some of them are still aggrieved. Say at the time, and President Akuffo Addo hand jet, and then as a form Ghana for cassette TI, NT, and do President Mahama so quickly within them or more say President Mahama so uncle hand jet. Na equalizing and say, some more kind. And I think that it was very unfortunate, very embarrassing, and very disheartening. So, Obia, what for about manner, people who go about town with the prefix honorable will transform himself into such a character, engaging in those kind of gata politics. But it is what it is. If you have been following Ghana politics, some of these things will not surprise you. So that is it. So we are called by a best for a conversation as to whether we need a new presidential jet or not, and a whole lot of stuff. My argument is that, you see, the argument of going to buy a presidential jet or not is not on the table. The argument of going to buy a new presidential jet or not currently is not on the table. This one came about because of the CE, because already presidential jet, per Bawumia's last one of his interviews, discussions, or he said it is not in good shape, and that there is the need for us to work on it. So this particular jet, Tam Edical France, because that is where the engineers are more working on that, and schedule na the core, expect to send engineers decided no, they need to work extra on it. So as we speak, the jet is still in France, and there hasn't been any technical report. Actually, at this point, this jet must be jettisoned, it must be overhauled, or must be grounded. That hasn't come up. So, President Mahama is supposed to travel out there, and then he goes out there and said, no, the economy is recovering. And public trust in that kind of way, because Ghana for a part of the governance architecture following. So in order not to cut more, maybe Yanko spending more, I will prefer to go for a commercial flight. And don't forget that this is not the first time President Mahama Akuffo a commercial flight. In the past, I see pen and I see bebre, but very often attention in this people don't know. Yes, you can talk about the ordeal and those kind of way, but this is a temporary period that you're waiting for the coming of the presidential jet. So the question is, the reason why this guy and other people started about this whole thing. Abras if we can in seminar a fall, then the NPP started a new conversation. Say, then let's go and buy a new private jet. And to Wabakai, Mene Kojopoku call Joy Prime. No, that was his conversation. And for them, answer that conversation, no, you better try, you better discuss. Say, we need to buy a new jet. No, something has to be done before. And that thing they are calling, they say, yeah, I'm told Canada, Japan, and other people made those particular way. They say, as Okuja, Tony Felix, and some other NDC people who were on Akuffo on daily basis and now you're chastising or no, should come and apologize to Ghanaians and Akuffo first. Once they are done, no, we can activate a conversation and have a new private jet. And I may say, that call, no, it's your friend saying, it's an unreasonable call because Okujato and Felix ain't only anybody any apology because at the time, you know, the conversation wasn't even so much about say yankoto jet and as a mayankoto jet.
Yo, Guswa Age Media no family near the Bremo. A Iban air twice or can a private jet owns and some audience some do not to but also subscribe, like it media and share them out for friends and can be kindly click on the notification bell so Sunday bay I didn't use be out of platform so also won't the air call and the air by young call or yet name quadro family.
The conversation wasn't about Akuffo Akohan, your friend is saying, Wakohan jet, high jet. No. It was about the outrageous cost. Not yet high jet at a cost at the time and Ghana economy was dripping, sinking. No? At the time, the president was pulling millions of dollars to high expensive, luxurious jet flying around the globe without recourse to prevailing economic circumstances at the time. That was the issue. It wasn't about say president Akohan jet in tea because a jet no main jet are saying na available. And at the time jet and say yeah. Don't forget say jet na brand Akuffo air hind this luxurious jet na upon we are so if it was in bad condition and upon we at the time was a president and he was using it. So this whole call of so all that they are doing is to use this presidential jet to rationalize those unwitty and those senseless expenditure now a course so hiring of the jet, you know. So says I more person yankoto new jet there then and I'm saying nobody owes nobody any damn apology. Because at the time, looking at the prevailing economic circumstances at the time, it hasn't changed much this time around. That is why President Mahama is not hiring a jet. That is what people should know. And these, if Obi only anybody apology, it is Akuffo and his band of those misguided individuals. They own Ghanaians an apology. And you Ghana for and so a barbon say, oh, jet na mo de buy no, it's not in good condition. Intimon kota fufura. I will openly say yes, we should buy a Ninja because that buying, you know, will be premised on a technical report. A detail say indeed jet now on and you're correct. And so and you see while going to aviation and as a for jet and a car as a contraption, it doesn't happen that way. Now last time I catch this jet can be reconstituted and make it new. So it happen. And now call Russia and Ukraine, and most of the planes no more used to fight, and most of them were manufactured in the Soviet era. But you see, jet, you can reconstitute the entire jet. Amana you new, repurpose it, and you can do everything. So jet we are Ukraine and they say and adiachi no more say enya we can take away the engines and as if we replace a new one. We can remodel this whole thing to look new without necessarily going out there to buy. So I wonder why the media try to narrow the conversations. We need to buy a new jet. And I've been a photo so to radio so or a journalist. And sometimes you listen to the kind of weird argument that these guys make. And when Akuffo was hiring, and I won't say abo mutiri so abo he fan for tiri so. Was it right when the gentleman was hiring those expensive, luxurious jets at the time? And we are journalists, now we are reasonable, very sensible. Nanya partisan politics and I talk Adidiwa dreamer. You will know, say, what the gentleman was doing at the time was wrong. At the time, pensioners were asked to take a pay cut. At the time, Ghana was locked out of the commercial space. At the time, inflation was running around 52%. At the time, our currency was the worst performing currency in the whole of the world. How dare you say people should go and apologize to Akuffo for such, your friend is saying, crass mismanagement at Ghana for a witness here. So this whole argument in my culture say it has never been about going to buy a new jet. When you hear MPP and their journalists at the radio, so yes, I never. It is a way of taking a spite at those of us who were against your friend is saying, sir, or moody at the time. No? So, and all that they are saying is they are seeking to justify those reckless expenditure. I also Akuffo say, not jet in a crowd. I say, jet is like a machine. The mere factor is not in good condition today, and it doesn't mean say Akuffo time now it was perpetually incapacitated or it was in a very bad condition. Who is one upon we was using, and the president at the time could have communicated and again up to hire a jet, a less expensive jet, but he prioritized luxury over any other considerations. At the time, Ghanaians were mourning. At the time, Ghanaians were crying. At the time, Ghanaians could not survive the heat and the economy. That was the time this senseless and reckless expenditure not yet to Sasikanugu. Enti and Kwabrane Betanabaka say, Monkopa Chawa, I'm saying, damn the woman team. Nobody owns anybody, no apology. If Obi will be apology, I said they have to apologize to us. So the argument about buying a new jet, that will depend. And even President Mahama himself hasn't said anything about going to buy a private jet. And as a going to buy a presidential jet. The presidential jet debate can come up if say French for the catch and say your jet in the issue if they reconstitute it we can have that conversation and buy a new jet. There will be no problem about that because jet not town from coffee. But the entire Ghana for Akuffo at the time no wasn't about say all hand jet. It was the insemhunu and the heightened insensitivity that was being displayed by the president at the time. And Ghana for Kenyans na ontie to the extent that jet na ya hand no hand hour bia na a cost over $18,000 to $17,000. At the time you be package jet na e tamaka. I see enko baby and ya package has say. There was this rumor running around say yato. We were paying for it at the time, and I'm for a sofa. So it wasn't about when there will be a jet and I'm also no. You see, some of us, your principles has always been unwavering. It's about the greater good. What I say, so it is never about say a quarter jet and I say a quarter jet. If we have good reason to go and buy jet today, we will all support it, and that is not even the issue. So those of you out there seeking to justify say people Okujato and Obi should go and apologize to Akuffo for them. And some who no mubedin Akroma in the last 8 years, Obi will be pa Obi Chawa. They should come and apologize to us for messing up this particular country for the trust that was reposed in them by Ghanaians, because nobody gives you such enormous responsibility built around trust, and you betray people that much and decide to do things that they want at the end. It doesn't favor nobody but you and that tiny band of unruly guys around you. We are more mindset. That is a Bush orientation about modern leadership. And such Bush orientation about modern leadership, men and never be a way. Because there are enlightened minds out there who will figure you out and they will present you to the people who you really are, not what you seek to be. These are the factual realities. Yes, I have listened to some people call and say, yes, say buy and let's say a top private jet. We can still buy the private jet, a top presidential. It's not an issue. If this plane, Asaya, what stop her from buying it? We can still buy it. You understand? But don't seek to justify those reckless expenditure. And Akuffo and say, because I'm for criticizing, you know, say because he had good reason. What good reasons? Good reason to pay $17,000 per hour. To the point that jets and I am finding at the time people were furious. So I think the MPP will have a greater job to do if they are able to organize themselves when the conversation and as for they can have it. And I ran to number and they say President I come to crowd doors and say I cannot come look at this mentality. Since when? No realize is President to kind of no more common fashion. Economy na grand at Japan some say no. Don't you need investors? And that is the purpose the president traveled. Wooing investors to come. And yesterday I'm told he's gotten some investors who are willing to come home and come to Ghana and invest over $100 million thereabout, if I say, in the economy. And all these things, you know, may help to boost, because at this point, Ghana's economy, you know, is at the crossroad. We are just trying to build things up, and any help we are here in terms of people bringing money and local when I want to see boost to my businesses and for here, and that is what we're doing. So it has never been about the jet. It was solely about the Semhuna na air coso under the Akuffo time, and the fact is they never respected Ghanaians. At the time we were telling them to get off that luxurious jet and identify themselves with the average and the ordinary Ghanaian. They saw themselves as kings and queens living on the moon. They didn't care what we were going through. That was the issue, and that still remains the issue. So you guys should just shut up and give us a break. Nobody is apologizing to nobody. You can go to hell.
I had any idea some never see at them message or subscribe, like it, media and share them out for friends and can be kindly click on the notification bell so send a the news battle platform so also one the echo and the air the air bar Jumediano you want to do now only POG Media in details would be na makramo.